Thank you for listening to this Podcast One production. Available on Apple Podcasts and Podcast One.
There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers. A dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends. A place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view. But when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. It's a Supernatural News Parish Share Saturday. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Along with me at the Supernatural News Desk, Mr. Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. Another week come and gone. Let me give you a quick movie review for the movie Yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not familiar with this movie, first of all, I mentioned years ago, one of my all-time favorite movies now is a movie called About Time. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautifully done movie in every aspect. I can't tout this movie enough. And this Yesterday is written by the same gentleman that wrote About Time. Mm-hmm. So I was excited to see where it takes off. And this story is interesting, right? It's and I'm not going to give anything away that's not in the trailers. A current struggling musician in England ends up having an accident. At the same time, a rolling blackout takes place all over the world. And it's for like 12 seconds or 12 minutes. I can't remember what the system is. But when he comes out of it, he's in a world where the Beatles never existed. And it's pretty remarkable. It's a great story. It's a fun movie, well acted. It's good comedy. It's got hints of comedy, romantic comedy, musical, a lot of great elements added together, plus the parallel world theory. And it's kind of touching on the Mandela effect. So it's really good. Out of 5 stars, I'm going to give it a good solid 4.5 stars.
Wow.
Out in theaters yesterday. It's a lot of fun, good music. Of course, the Beatles music, so it's hard to mess that up.
Sure,
but
yeah.
they do a great job with it, and it's fun to see. What would you do in a world where you want to be a musician and one of the world's greatest musical acts doesn't exist, but you remember everything? You remember all their music. You remember all the lyrics. It really is a fascinating story on many different levels. So if you're looking for something fun to do, a great date movie or taking yourself out for a movie, Yesterday, out in theaters right now, go check it out. I highly recommend it. That's just a little entertainment fact from your buddy Dave. And if you like it, then make sure you go check out Netflix and Amazon and watch the movie About Time. Truly one of the best time travel movies ever made. A beautifully done, very funny comedy. Again, I think they're brilliant. Danny Boyle actually directs Yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's very well directed. Another one of those movies where it's like very few scenes could have been cut. You know, it was one of those that it was like About Time. Every cell of that movie was a great filmed moment. That's why I don't give this one a full 5 stars. There were probably 1 or 2 scenes that could have been pulled to make it tighter and more cohesive, but overall it was great. There's one little glaring issue that I'll overlook, but it's one of those kind of time travel, alternate reality snafus that, kind of like in the movie Kate and Leopold with Meg Ryan and Hugh Jackman when they first released the movie. Mm-hmm. Roger Ebert recognized that Liev Schreiber's character in the movie had an integral part, and that truthfully what they were kind of doing was that it was an incestual movie accidentally.
Ooh.
So they went in and they edited that scene out, and it's never been seen that way again since. But there's an original scene in it that kind of changes the dynamic. There's nothing that earth-shattering in this, but there is one hiccup. And once you've seen it and it's been out for a few weeks, I'll mention it on air. But a good one to go check out for yourself. All right, we're going to weave together our supernatural news and our parashare. So Tim will read a story or two. I'll read a story or two. We'll just continue to do that through the entirety of today's program. Let's get started, Mr. Dennis. Where are we beginning today in the world of supernatural news?
Well, Dave, the mystery of a fish caught with a wedding ring attached has been solved, thank God, because I've been staying up night after night wondering how this thing was actually all put together. I now have an answer. Dave, I can now sleep soundly.
Well, that's good. Maybe then I can sleep soundly because I won't have you texting me every 15 minutes saying, what the hell does this mean, Dave? Is it Armageddon? Is it the end of the world? Is a fish trying to propose to me?
Well, I was wondering if that was the case. I mean, I'd been up on a fishing trip recently, and I was wondering if maybe, one of them was the best man for the fish that had the wedding ring, and I didn't know.
What if he got caught on the way to the wedding, and now this couple is fighting, two steelhead at the bottom of the lake because his idiot drunk best friend didn't show up to the wedding with the ring? I understand your nerves and your concern and worry over the story, Tim, but I guess now you have an answer. Why don't you share it with all of us?
Well, that I will. In one of the more bizarre fishing stories to surface, a fisherman reeled in a steelhead with a wedding ring attached to its tail, leaving a group of anglers fishing in a tournament on Lake Michigan on Friday scratching their heads. It was crazy, Jim Nelligan told USA Today, and For the Win Outdoors, we started wondering who did this and why. The answer didn't take long to emerge, however. The Chicago Sun-Times reported Monday that Captain Jason Rose used a zip tie to attach his wedding band to a steelhead he caught and released on May 4th across the lake near the port of Whitehall, Michigan, that is. I worked in Whitehall, Wisconsin. It's not quite the same thing. Rose had been married for nearly a decade when he and his spouse decided to go their separate ways. I'm a fishing guide. She was always against me following my dreams and hated how much I fished, Rose told the Sun-Times. 4 years went by since our divorce. I felt I needed to get rid of my ring, but I didn't want to just toss it to the bottom, pawn it, or any of that kind of thing, so I released it the best way I know how. Sorry, I had to laugh at that. I'm convinced that ring is cursed. My life had been nothing less than great since I released it. The steelhead and ring reemerged more than 7 weeks later when Joe Peñar caught the fish on Nelligan's boat, Gray Lion 2, while they and two others fished the Pass the Passion tournament by Salmon Unlimited of Illinois. They were fishing for lake trout by the R4, a famous buoy east of Chicago's north suburbs. The fish made several jumps out of the water when we caught it, so it seemed normal for a steelhead, Nelligan told For the Win Outdoors. When we first saw it, we wondered if it was some kind of DNR, Department of Natural Resources tag initially, but then we saw it was a wedding ring. The wedding band is silver with one diamond in it and the inscription SDH Steel. I didn't know steelhead get married, crew member John Massard quipped upon seeing the wedding ring. Also on For the Win, fishermen nearly let record lake trout get away. Just a little side note. Rose was surprised upon hearing the news about his fish and ring. He told the Sun-Times, "None of us can believe someone caught it." Well, eventually that fish was going to get caught. I don't know what the guy was thinking. It was hardly a surprise to Nelligan, however, when he learned the story behind the ring. That was my first guess, a divorce, but funny that the guy says the ring is cursed, Nelligan told For the Win, because that ring is cursed. Ever since it came on my boat, I've had problems with my Glendinning engine controls. The switch to raise the helm floor to get at the engines broke, and the hose at my dock burst. Sheesh. He has had some issues. Yeah. I think we'll mail it back to him. No return address.
Well, that's one way to do it. So the curse of the wedding band has been solved.
It has, and it's still cursed.
I guess.
Yeah, so there you go. What does that say for the bride, though? I mean, how is she feeling this whole deal?
She doesn't care. She divorced him 10 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever it was.
She's scot-free. She's living the life.
We have a Mandela story, Tim. Dave and Tim, that's how this one starts off. Hey, Dave and Tim.
Hi.
I think I mentioned to Tim on True Crime Tuesday that Manson was my boogeyman growing up, and after watching something about the Tate murders, I found out more about the reason why. I reached out to you guys on Twitter concerning you guys asking about people's experiences with the Mandela effects. Since my adoptive mom and bio grandmother was so disturbed when watching the episode, I figured you guys would want to hear about it. She was so upset she kept demanding the show was wrong and the murders had not occurred in 1969 and wanted me to immediately pull it up online. First off, she made me swear not to give you her name because she has a few alien experiences that she has shared with the family, but since she's been so wary of her connection to Edwards Air Force Base and possible Men in Black encounters, she doesn't want her name connected. I might get her to tell some of these stories, too. She had a sort of panic attack when they revealed the date of the Tate murders, and her story is simple. In 1963, before the assassinations of JFK, she was living at the base at the Mount Range where Manson's family allegedly lived after they left Spawn Ranch. She would travel down to San Francisco to visit with her sister, who was in the hospital dying of leukemia. She swears that she heard about the murders on one of those trips to visit her sister and was so terrified that she would not drive back down that road alone. She had my biological mother, my uncle, and was pregnant with her second son. She said there was mass panic in her neighborhood of housewives because they were afraid they were going to come down from the mountain and slaughter them all. They also had weird things happen where people were talking about coming home and having things moved. So the practical joke I played on my bio mom was not as funny to her as it was to us, where my mom will move stuff on my desk or put all my books from my shelves. I got busted letting myself into my mom's room and turning pictures around because she had been binge-watching Blue Bloods and learned this was a thing the Manson family had done. The mom had thought it was moderately amusing, or my mom had thought it was moderately amusing until we both had to calm a somewhat hysterical 80-year-old down. She said that it all hit her pretty hard back to back because when this first happened, then my aunt died, and then shortly before she gave birth, JFK was assassinated in Dallas. So she remembers it. She stopped clearing cabinets and curled up on the floor crying because it was all to stop within a span of a few months. She was adamant that it all happened then, and it was the first time she suffered depression because she did not know what the world was coming to. That's as much as I can really get from her on that. And yes, I typed in Word. Hopefully, Dave, you don't rip me apart too much.
Well,
no, I thought it was pretty well written. Thank you very much for sharing the story. Interesting.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, what a weird tale to think it happened in 1963.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what did they call it? They had a weird nickname for it when they would sneak into people's houses and move things around. It was something rhymey like Hinky Dinky or something like that, where they would go in and move people's furniture around just to practice breaking and entering and being silent.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was called, though.
Creepy damn crew. All right, Tim, where are we off to next?
We're off to Western Kenya, Dave, where a bizarre moment happened between two lovers. And I actually, if I had the music, I'd play Steelers Wheel, Stuck in the Middle with You. It's kind of appropriate because these two lovers got stuck kind of inside each other, so to speak.
Pardon me?
Yeah. A lover gets stuck inside his married mistress during sex after her husband asked a witch doctor to curse them.
I told a witch doctor I was in love with you. Bing, boom, boom. I don't remember that part in the song where he asks the witch doctor to figure out a way to make one man's junk stick to another woman's place.
Hoo-hoo dilly?
Yeah, hoo-hoo dilly and cha-cha.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised by this.
Well,
the witch doctor has definitely amped up his game since the Chipmunks sang about him.
Yes, he has. He's gotten much, much more powerful.
But it does make sense where the ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah comes from, as it was this poor guy trying to separate from the woman he was...
And the ting-tang, walla-walla, bing-bang.
Yeah, he was super glued into.
Yeah. The amorous couple were in the middle of an intimate tryst in the Daraja Mbili area of Kisii. That's in Western Kenya, in case you didn't know. A pair of cheating lovers were publicly shamed after getting stuck together, having sex, and being forced to shout for help. Normally you're shouting for God, but, any help will do in this case. Mm-hmm. The amorous couple were in the middle of an intimate tryst in the Taraja Mbili area of Kisii in western Kenya, but the man suddenly found himself unable to detach from his partner. Unable to control the pain that came from their embarrassing situation, both let out loud yells that attracted the neighbors. Unintentionally, or intentionally rather. A crowd milled around the house, and the two were carried outside on a sheet as more and more people gathered to see the shamed lovers, still locked together and draped only in more sheets. The woman's jilted husband is reported to have secretly given the woman a concoction prepared by a witch doctor. Local media claim this caused the pair to get stuck, a theory widely believed by locals. The potion was designed to have the effect of making the lovers inseparable and proving their guilt. On the husband's instructions, local media reported the pair were taken to the witch doctor, who separated them. Yikes. The witch doctor made the man who was having sex with the married woman pay a fine before agreeing to free him. The witch doctor also told local news that the incident should serve as a lesson to those cheating in relationships. Local media said that infidelity was a prominent social problem in Kenya. And, of course, if you're going to solve that local problem, Dave, you're going to want to do it with a potion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Or super glue.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Just to prove it.
Yeah, that's painful.
Boy.
Stuck together.
Now, my question here is why not get the old fire hose out, or at least a hose, because that's how they do it when two dogs are stuck together on the sidewalk.
Well, but he's having trouble getting his fire hose out. I don't know if...
Well, that's how they get the dogs apart on the sidewalk.
Who does that? Who turns a hose on dogs making sweet, sweet love, Tim?
That's what they used to do over in...
weirdo are you?
In the old hometown of Blaine, they'd see a couple of dogs out on the sidewalk, and they'd say, "Get away from her!" Yeah. And they'd take the...
What do you have against dogs in love, man? Sickos.
They don't let weirdos. They'd never let them finish. They always take the hose after.
That's horrible.
The
Karma.
Hose with the
That's
sprayer,
all I gotta say. When they face the maker, they're gonna have to relive that moment from the dog's perspective.
Wow, really?
Yeah, that's the theory. Hi, Super Dave and Tim, the ticking time bomb. Hey, somebody's got your personality down.
I don't think so.
Been a long-time fan since you guys started hosting Coast to Coast AM and thought I'd finally write in. I'm a native to Chicago, live in the Glendale Heights area, close to Schaumburg. My experience happened at my parents' home in infamous Cicero, Illinois. Yes, the Al Capone Cicero, Tim. My experience happened about 10 years ago, and the story begins with my brother and I coming home in the afternoon, deciding to enter through the back of the house. I opened the door with my brother standing right behind me. Just for a brief visual, as soon as you open the door, there's a 3x3 foot square where you have 4 steps leading to the main floor to the right. There are steps that lead to the basement where our washer and dryer are. So there we are. I twist the handle, open the door, and I see what appears to be a shadow of someone moving around, followed by the sound of the dryer lid closing. "Mom?" I yell, with no response. "Grandma?" I call out. Still dead silent. With a puzzled look on my face, I turn around to look at my brother. "You saw that too, right?" "What did you see?" I asked. He proceeds to tell me what I just explained. "I'll check the basement, you check upstairs," he said. We do a quick check and realize no one was home. To this day, it has been the only actual ghost spirit encounter I ever had. The craziest part is that a few weeks later, our neighbor told my mom that she had 2 spirits of the little girls that loved doing her laundry. Was this who we had seen? Did they run out of the laundry to do her house and decided to do our house too? I don't know. Anywho, thanks for reading my story and stay cool. Thanks for all you guys do. And that comes from, looks like Mario, not Maria, Tim.
Oh.
Don't confuse it. Mario and Maria, 2 totally different people.
I knew it was Mario.
Wow. So there you go, Mario. Wow. I'll tell you what, send those clothes washing kids to my house, because my skin versions of children don't do it. It'd be nice to know that the ghostly ones might consider it.
You better start training them now.
That ain't going to happen. All right.
Yeah.
Where are we off to next in Supernatural News?
Laundry in your laundry room when they're 30. Well, Dave, we're in trouble.
Well, I knew that, but what now?
We are in trouble. If we ever take a trip to Africa, we are dead men. Yep. Cross that one off the ghost hunting trip list, Dave.
Well,
Africa,
I already did that when, every disease under the sun was found there, Tim. I figured that would be a good time for us never to go to Africa.
Oh, well, there's that.
That and things that want to eat us there.
There's that. Yeah, sure. It turns out that there's a bald-headed truth here that superstars like Bruce Willis and Jason Statham, and I guess you too, Dave.
Thank you.
Have been warned to. I'm no superstar. I'm not going to lie to you. Have been warned to stay away from Africa because baldies are being targeted by witch doctors for use in magic potions. That's true. If you've got a bald head, you, my friend, are magic soup.
What?
Yep.
Okay.
Cops in the African country are issuing a warning after brutal killing of 2 bald men. Oh, boy. Superstars Bruce Willis, Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel, those are the ones we're picking on, are being warned to stay away from Africa. Like they show up there frequently. I don't know that to be the case. As baldies are allegedly being targeted by local witch doctors, police chiefs in Mozambique told a press conference that, I love the picture in this article, by the way, told a press conference that people with bald heads visiting the country should consider wearing hats if they go out at night. You heard me right, because that'll fool your local witch doctors. Mm-hmm. Witch doctors in Mozambique are targeting hairless for use in their magic potions, according to police.
Does a ball cap really fool anybody? Wouldn't we? Or unless it's like one of those ball caps with like the mullet sewn into the back.
I think that's what it is. That's the one you're supposed to wear. It's
sure.
Yeah, with the long flowing mullet out of it, kind of like a Wayne's World mullet, just to kind of
sign me up.
Yep. Not many people would want to pick a fight with a tough Brit actor like Jason Statham, but he could be a target in Mozambique because them witch doctors, boy, they're tough and stringy, kind of like that old man strength. I don't know. Diehard actor Bruce Willis could end up in a real-life dangerous situation if he visits the African country after the police warning, because he doesn't have that old man strength, evidently. Witch doctors who notoriously kill albinos for their body parts are reportedly hunting down the hairless for their use in their magic potions. Yikes. Body parts and heads of bald men are said to be traded across the borders to Malawi and Tanzania, where they are of value in witchcraft.
Is it because we're so virile and studly? By ingesting us, you think that your fortunes will turn, your riches will double?
I think you're onto something there, Dave. Not on something, but onto something. Mm-hmm. The police warning came after the brutal killing of 2 bald men, one of whom had his head cut off. It's not a good way to go. And both had their internal organs cut out and stolen. Not, again, a good way to go. National Police spokesman Enaisha Dina told a news conference in the capital of Maputo, the murders of 2 bald people has led to 2 arrests of suspects. Thank God they got them. Their motivations came from superstition and culture as the local community thinks bald men are rich.
Yeah, that's not the case. At least not these 2 bald men.
No.
Maybe every other bald man. Maybe we missed that memo.
Well, the guy on the Monopoly game is rich, Dave.
That's true.
Maybe that's where they get it from.
So is Jason Statham.
Yeah.
And Moby.
And Moby, yeah. That's a good one.
Vin Diesel.
Right.
Or as I like to call him, Vincent.
Did
I mention Bruce Willis?
Yeah, he's
and then there's Jason Statham.
Right.
And then Rick from Pawn Stars.
Yep, Rick from Pawn Stars.
Jason from Ghost Adventures.
Yeah.
Or Ghost Hunters, rather.
Whoa, don't slip up on that one.
Jason Voorhees from, of course, the Friday the 13th franchise is probably one of the most famous and wealthy bald men.
Sure, he's got some bucks, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I see it. It's just we're like kind of the lone holdouts, it appears.
Although if you're a witch doctor, do you really want to go toe-to-toe with Jason Voorhees?
Just might be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'd film it.
Yeah.
I'd make some money off that. So they think that bald men are rich and that their parts can be used to enrich others. Oh, so there's a giving back to the community vibe here that I missed.
Sure.
The killings took place in Melange in the center of southern Mozambique, and the 2 victims were aged over 40. Oh, boy. With one decapitated and both mutilated. Oh, so they like them kind of tender, I guess is the deal.
Yeah. And not yapping at you, apparently.
Mm-hmm. A security services spokesman, Miguel Caetano, said that according to the statements of those arrested, the organs were to be used for witchcraft. He said the two arrested men, both aged about 20, said the organs were to be used by healers in rituals to promote the fortunes of the witch doctor's clients. They told officers the body parts were sent across to Tanzania and Malawi. The spokesman said that the attacks on bald men for their organs is a new outbreak in the trade in organ parts in which albinos are usually targeted. They've moved on, evidently. According to the UN, more than 100 attacks against albinos who have white skin due to a hereditary condition that causes an absence of pigmentation have been registered in Mozambique in the last 3 years. Brutal poachers who killed and chopped up 3 lions in an African safari park, or a safari park, Dave, could be selling the body parts.
I'd like to go to a safari park.
A safari park? It sounds like
a great... could be farking all day long.
That's right. Safari. Well, you can fark here, you can fark there, you can fark anywhere, really.
That's right.
You can park and fark if you'd like. Could be selling the body parts for witchcraft potions, it is feared. It was also reported a lover allegedly got... Oh, we read that story previously. Yeah. I don't need to go over that again. But there you go.
Every car, Tim.
Yes.
Every car comes with its share of stories, much like our Saturday episodes.
Yes.
That ding in your bumper when you nervously ran over the kid in the backyard.
Oh, my.
And the luxury package that you thought you should get yourself when you heard about the big promotion, which turned out to be just 65 cents more an hour, Tim.
Yeah.
Or the mileage you saved by riding your bike all summer because, well, that promotion didn't come through that you were hoping for. Mm-hmm. While you can't put a price tag on your stories, now with TrueCar, you can at least find out what your car's worth when it comes time to sell or trade it in. Just go to TrueCar. Simply enter your license plate number and watch how your car's details pop up. Then you just answer a few questions, Tim.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Kick an 8-track and boombox inside? Watch as that bumps up your value. Bloodstains in the trunk? Well, you knew that was going to cost you, but now you know how much it dings your wallet. So you can plan ahead, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
Once you're finished, you're going to get a true cash offer sent in minutes, which you can take to a local certified dealer to cash out or trade in. So when you're ready to experience a better way to sell or trade in your car, check out TrueCar today. True cash offers are not available in all areas. Where are we off to next in the world of supernatural news, Tim?
Well, Dave, hold on just one moment. Here is my...
Ooh, suddenly you're running commercials in the background during my commercial? What?
Yeah, well, you know.
I feel a little underappreciated.
Well, sorry about that. A story about the Nazca lines, Dave. Evidently, the Nazca lines have been solved. Scientists decipher the mystery of an alien landing site in the Peru desert. The Nazca line's purpose has long puzzled experts, as the ancient etchings are only visible from above, but a seismic new study has finally cracked the Nazca Line's mystery. The desert of southern Peru is a barren, rocky wilderness where it rains less than an inch each year, but when viewed from above, strange lines take shape across the landscape, forming geometric designs, and odder still are the distinct shapes such as apparent hummingbirds, spiders, and even monkeys. These are the world-renowned Nazca Lines, subject of mystery for over 80 years. The huge carvings in Peru's Andean desert were carved by ancient civilization 2,000 years ago. Peru's famous Nazca lines are ancient symbols etched into the inhospitable plains of land and are only able to be appreciated from the air. Explanations for the Nazca lines range from them be designed to please gods looking down from the sky to the drawings used as an alien landing site. But now a groundbreaking scientific approach has managed to re-identify huge birds etched into the desert plain. The birds appear to be exotic to the region, and further studies could help explain their significance. A team of experts from Japan applied an approach to identify the 16 bird drawings among more than 2,000 drawings present in the area. Professor Masaki Ida of the Hokkaido University Museum said, until now, the birds in these drawings have been identified based on general impressions or a few morphological traits present in each figure. We closely noted the shapes and relative sizes of the birds' beaks, heads, necks, bodies, wings, tails, and feet, and compared them to those of modern birds in Peru. The researchers have consequently reclassified a previously identified hummingbird as a hermit, a guano bird, and a previously unidentified bird drawing as pelicans. Other bird drawings that are thought to be condors or flamingos did not have the essential characteristics to confirm their identifications, but were too inconsistent with modern Peruvian birds to justify a new classification. Although the identified birds do exist in Peru, they are found far from the region where their drawings were made. Hermits, for example, are found in the forests on the eastern slopes of the Andes and in the north near Ecuador, and pelicans can still be found living along the coast. Professor Ida added the Nazca people who drew the images could have seen pelicans while food gathering on the coast. Our findings show that they drew exotic birds, not local birds, and this could be a clue as to why they drew them in the first place. Further comparisons with birds drawn on pottery around the same time and of bird remains excavated from Nazca's ruins will help identify more of the birds depicted on the iconic drawings.
Yeah. I like when they're actually spending some time re-examining some of these mysteries.
Yeah.
Dear Dave and Tim, that's how this one begins, Tim.
Hi.
I'm writing to tell you about a UFO experience I had a few weeks ago. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why am I writing so late about this? Well, the reason is I couldn't explain it, much less put it into words. It was a normal early day in April in Hammond, Indiana. I got fed up and clothed my daughter and just relaxed as I patiently waited to get ready for the work like I've done many times in the past. It's about 1:30 p.m. and I scramble to her things together for the next few hours as my wife watches her at her job. We head out, and as I would normally do, I look up to see the sky. Nothing out of the ordinary. A few blocks down, I peer up and I spot an unidentified object. I say unidentified because I have no idea what it is. It was long and dark and gray and usual cigar shape, maybe closer to a short needle. Even with the sun, it still had a dark look, and it was fast. Normally, you can spot a plane as they tend to follow the same path with a slow tilt here and there, but this thing traveled faster than that, and it disappeared after about 10 seconds. Now, fast forward about 9 hours, I'm leaving work. I'm in no rush as it's 11 p.m. and there's just very little traffic. I turn down this dimly lit street to get back to the main road and once again look up to the stars just in case I see anything abnormal. And just as I start to peer up at this white ball of light shoots across in the same direction I'm heading. No sound, just white light. After a few hundred yards, it again disappears. I pull over, as did the cop behind me, and we began to chat for a bit on what that might have been. Coming up with no good conclusions, we just brushed it off and we headed our separate ways. Well, thank you for reading my stories. Tim, love the great work you do. Your listener, Tyler.
Oh, thanks, Tyler.
All right, where are we off to next in the world of supernatural news?
Well, CNN has an article out there, Dave, that is asking the question why pilots are seeing UFOs.
Why are they seeing UFOs?
Well, according to them, for centuries, people have witnessed unexplained lights in the sky and thought that perhaps they might be ghosts or angels. However, it was in the summer of 1947 when a different explanation became popular, following a widely reported incident over Mount Rainier in Washington State. People began to believe that these unidentified flying objects are actually alien spacecraft prowling the Earth. Over the past 70 years, more than 10,000 similar reports have been made. Most reports were eventually debunked as weather balloons, the planet Venus, or even oddly shaped clouds. Some accounts simply arose from nothing more than the fevered imaginations of UFO enthusiasts, but not all reports could be dismissed so easily. In 2004, Navy fighter jet pilots operating from the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier reported seeing UFOs off the coast of San Diego, and more recently, other military pilots flying with the USS Theodore Roosevelt in the Atlantic, or Athletic, whatever you want to call that ocean, made similar claims. The news of these accounts became public knowledge from a story in the New York Times and a new miniseries on the History Channel. These media and entertainment reports brought the incidents of the attention of government leaders. The question that comes to mind is, are these aliens? Sadly, for anyone who is a fan of the television show The X-Files, it is simply far, far more plausible then what these pilots were seeing is something with a more ordinary explanation, whether it be an instrument glitch or some other unexplained artifact. Given the professionalism of the pilots who reported the sightings, according to this article author, it says, I am fairly certain that they did indeed see a UFO. The problem is that many people jump directly from unidentified in UFO to flying saucer, and that's just too large of a jump to be reasonable. There is simply no credible evidence that the Earth is being visited by aliens. There are no artifacts, no clear photographs, no captured aliens, and no alien bodies. Nothing. This is according to the article writer. So please hold your emails till the end. The reports of UFOs are from eyewitnesses or poor resolution photographs or videos. Ask criminal prosecutors about the value of eyewitness reports. They have contributed to a majority of the convictions that were later overturned by DNA evidence. An eyewitness can be an unreliable source of information, and in the case of something as extraordinary as the observation of alien spacecraft, pedestrian evidence simply won't do. As Carl Sagan often said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. The reality is that unidentified means just that. The pilots could have seen a real object that they couldn't explain, or they could have experienced an instrumental artifact, which is basically just a glitch in the electronics. In the San Diego incident, there were earlier reports of high-altitude radar contacts from surface ships, and just prior to when an unidentified object was recorded on the fighter jet's infrared camera, there were reports of something in or just below the water. Even though there were multiple observations of multiple phenomena, what is missing is multiple reports of the same phenomena. It would be hasty to link those independent observations together. While alien visitation is unlikely as long as there remains even the faintest chance that there exists aerial objects with capabilities beyond those humanity can achieve, we should continue to investigate the possibility. After all, these objects are real and actually move in the ways that the pilots reported. It's something that any military would want to know about, that's if they do, as being aware of credible threats is one of their key responsibilities. There was a time in the history when the working explanation of UFOs didn't involve extraterrestrials. During World War II and before the flying saucer craze, Allied pilots reported UFOs that they called Foo Fighters, which were thought to be possibly a new weapon employed by German Luftwaffe. By the same token, these modern accounts should certainly be investigated in the event that they actually exist and are of earthly origin. However, again, this is the author saying, I would be very surprised if the reports turn out to be anything other than ordinary. The author then goes on to say, I've been fascinated by the idea of extraterrestrial life since I was a small boy, and I think it's very likely that it exists throughout the universe. The tagline of the television show The X-Files resonates with me. I want to believe, but I'm going to need much better evidence than what we have so far. In the meantime, let's keep an eye on those reports, just in case. And that's how that article from CNN goes. It's kind of an interesting little editorial in that it has a very skeptical, almost cynical feel to it. But at the same time, in the end, he still says he wants to believe.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We've got more supernatural news, more of your stories when we return to Beyond the Darkness. Hey, everybody, you have to check out this amazing new true crime podcast. It's called 22 Hours, An American Nightmare. It's about a murder that took place in Washington, D.C. A family and their housekeeper were held hostage for 22 hours before being killed when the murderer set their mansion on fire. You'll be shocked by what they went through during those 22 hours. And you won't believe how they found the guy. I'm telling you, this podcast is awesome. Keep an eye out for a special sneak peek, an extra episode this week here on Beyond the Darkness. And if you can't wait, download 22 Hours An American Nightmare now on Apple Podcasts and Podcast One. New episodes every Monday.
Beyond the Darkness.
Welcome back to the program. This is Beyond the Darkness. It's a supernatural news Parashare Saturday. Tim, where are we going next in the world of news?
We're going to the world of Hollywood, Dave, or TV to be exact, or the History Channel has greenlit The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, which delves into UFO sightings in the area. Finally, the average lay person gets a look at the Skinwalker Ranch, at least a longer look at Skinwalker Ranch. Along with UFO sightings, Skinwalker Ranch has long been associated with paranormal activity. The creator of The Curse of Oak Island is bringing a new series to History Channel with The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. The new nonfiction series will delve into the unexplained occurrence of alleged paranormal and UFO-related sightings on the location. According to Deadline, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch is currently the working title of the new series. Executive producer Kevin Burns, who's famous for The Curse of Oak Island and Ancient Aliens, will be gaining full and unprecedented access to one of the most infamous and secretive hotspots of paranormal and UFO-related activities on Earth as he tries to uncover the truth about this strange location. Skinwalker Ranch is a 512-acre property located in Utah in the, is it Uinta Basin? Oh, something like that.
Isn't it Unida or something?
Unida, like something like that. Yeah, it's got the I before the N in this article. That has been host to claims of multiple UFO sightings and paranormal activity dating back as much as 200 years, along with the suspected paranormal activity and allegations of UFO sightings. The ranch has had its fair share of reported cases and animal mutilations. The ranch itself gets its name from a Native American legend about a shape-shifting creature referred to as the Skinwalker. Since the 1950s, the ranch and the area surrounding it has often been referred to as UFO Alley and has garnered international media attention. Over the years, much study has gone into the area, some of which is believed to have been secretly funded by the U.S. government. In 1996, billionaire businessman and UFO enthusiast Robert Bigelow purchased the property and embarked on his own research into the Skinwalker Ranch. Then 3 years ago, the ranch was sold to an anonymous buyer who, to this day, remains unknown. Even on Reddit, a search has been launched trying to identify the owner, but to no avail. Over the years, while there has been plenty of interest by UFO and paranormal enthusiasts, there has been little official access granted to media, and only a handful of documentaries have been allowed access inside the ranch by documentary crews. Now Burns and his team will continue with the ongoing interest in the site as they dig to uncover the truth about the location for History Channel's The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch is being developed by History Channel, by Prometheus Entertainment, and Letter 10 Productions, alongside Kevin Burns, Joe Lassard, Matt Crocco, Kim Sheeran, and Anthony Fiorno. They'll also act as executive producers for Prometheus Entertainment. So there you go.
All right. Well, that's exciting. Bunch of changes coming. What else have you got for me?
That is. Also, there was a little bit of confusion out there, as far as ghost hunters and Ghost Nation and the difference between the two of them. Well, now we know, Dave, what exactly this new Ghost Hunters program is. Because there was a press release that just came out by A&E. And it turns out...
What have we got?
It turns out, Dave, that Grant Wilson is the head of the new Ghost Hunters show.
Ah, really? Grant Wilson's back. Okay, so he'll be on the new Ghost Hunters while Ghost Nation over on Travel Channel with Jason Hawes, huh?
Yep, and Jason...
Competing. Ooh.
Yeah, I know, right? We got us an old-fashioned competition going on. So, original cast member Grant Wilson is to return to the show on Wednesday, August 21st, on A&E. So the Ghost Hunters revival is among 5 paranormal shows that A&E is starting up on their network. A&E is revisiting the paranormal with a Ghost Hunters revival imminent and orders for 4 more ghostly shows underway. The network is tapping into the current fascination with everything spooky and unexplainable. Picked up for 20 episodes, the Ghost Hunters revival brings back one of the most successful paranormal series of all time following its original 12-year run on Sci-Fi. It will debut on its new network on Wednesday, August 21st. Original cast member Grant Wilson will return for the new series with a new group of professional ghost hunters, which includes it's a crew too, Dave. Includes Daryl Marston, Kristen Luman, Brandon Alvis, Mustafa Gattallery, I believe it is, Gattallery, Brian Murray, my apologies to Mustafa if I butchered the last name, Brian Murray and Rochelle Stratton are the new members. In addition to Ghost Hunters, remakes of Psychic Kids and Celebrity Ghost Stories, having a tough time with this article, have also been greenlit at A&E, along with one other new original series, Trey the Texas Medium, and the new 2-hour special, World's Biggest Ghost Hunt. A&E has been on the forefront of programming in the paranormal space, and with that success, they have been eager to bring the genre back to the network for some time. Elaine Fontaine-Bryant, head of programming for A&E Network, said in a statement, "Each of these series has a unique point of view, but will collectively give their audience a window into a world of spellbinding stories that have to be seen to be believed." The original Psychic Kids ran for 3 seasons on A&E between 2008 and 2010, chronicling the lives of children with extraordinary abilities. The 8-episode new series centers on those original kids, now successful young adults.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, as they work to empower a new generation of young psychics alongside trained licensed therapists. Trey the Texas Medium centers on Trey Ganem, a carpenter and casket maker who moonlights as a medium. The series has been picked up for 12 episodes set to premiere this fall. Celebrity Ghost Stories, of course, follows paranormal storyteller and world-renowned psychic medium Kim Russo of The Haunting of fame, as she brings some of the biggest names in entertainment back to the sites of their paranormal experiences. That's been picked up for 6 episodes. And per A&E, World's Biggest Ghost Hunt is a 2-hour special and the longest continuously filmed paranormal investigation in television history. That's in quotes. You may argue that continuously amongst yourselves. And we'll see 5 paranormal investigators locked inside the legendary haunted Penhurst Asylum in Pennsylvania for 2 weeks to document unexplained recent reports of paranormal activity. So there you go.
That'll be weird. We'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Hi, Dave and Tim. My name is Sarah. I'm a 26-year-old, and I've listened to your show on and off for years now, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I went on your website to try to search topics and didn't find a search option. I'm super curious to know if you guys have covered the topic of the Hat Man or shadow people and watchers. I've had reoccurring terrifying experiences as a child and later as a teen found out that it is a worldwide phenomena, and there is an entire website dedicated to people telling their Hat Man stories. I also came to find out that my father had seen the Hat Man standing on the side of a hallway as a young adult, and my ex-brother-in-law saw him multiple times as a child in his room, windows and mirrors. It seems to be more common than I thought. Please let me know if you have or will be covering this topic, as I'm very interested and also would love some insight. Thank you. Well, Sarah, yes, as a matter of fact, we have a couple of times. So if you are a subscriber to Beyond the Darkness, Darkness Radio Beyond the Darkness, you'll be able to find them in our archives. Heidi Hollis has been our guest on numerous occasions talking about this phenomena. So it is out there. We've discussed it, and it's a fascinating topic. I've seen shadow people. I've never encountered the Hat Man. And that does seem to have kind of a different vibe to it than just standard shadow people. But yeah, check out our archives and you'll be able to find more information. You can get that over at podcast1.com/beyond-the-darkness and subscribe. $5 a month, I think it is, and gets you access to all the shows on Podcast One's network and all the archives. So go check that out. All right, Tim, where shall we go next?
Well, we go to our friend Zach Baggins, who continues to collect interesting things for his haunted museum, Dave. This is an item that is very interesting. I'll just go ahead and say it. He's added a Love Ranch bed to his collection. It's where Lamar Odom OD'd and Dennis Hoff died. Yeah. Zach just doesn't collect haunted items for his museum. He also goes the macabre route, like adding the brothel bed connected to a death and an infamous overdose. The Ghost Adventure Stars tells TMZ he acquired the bed and bedroom furniture of the Bunny Ranch and Love Ranch owner Dennis Hoff, which eerily includes the mattress that Hoff died on, which also happens to be the same mattress that Lamar Odom was on when he overdosed 3 years prior in October of 2015. Baggins says they never swapped out the mattress in the Love Ranch room.
Yuck.
I know, right? And now folks at the legal Nevada brothel believe it's cursed, and that's where Baggins steps in, and he got a hold of it. We're told the bed set is being donated to the Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, where, as TMZ reported, Baggins displays spooky stuff like the Devil's Rocking Chair, which has now been successfully installed, as it's been reported, and the Dybbuk box, which is there as well, along with creepy items like Ted Bundy's glasses. Zach tells the Love Ranch, or tells TMZ rather, the Love Ranch wants him to replicate Hoff's entire bedroom, which there's a picture of, is maintained the same setup over the years, including when Odom OD'd in it. They say, we're told people at the ranch say Hoff would have enjoyed his legacy being carried on this way because that's how he was. Well,
he was. We had him on our show a number of years ago,
Yep.
Dennis Hoff, talking about the Haunted Bunny Ranch, and he actually had us talk to some of the working girls who explained the weird phenomena there. So I think you would be thrilled to know that his stuff ended up in a museum for the supernatural and the brothel.
Yeah. And it would definitely add to the, I mean, Zach's going right along with the theme. It definitely would be in that same vibe. And I don't know, Dave, I mean, you've been there, and you know, you stood in front of Michael Jackson's propofol chair, right?
Yes.
Did you get a creepy vibe when you stood in front of it?
No,
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I've actually stood in front of his hidden grave, and that was weirder to me than the propofol chair. And
did you get kind of that same vibe with Dr. Kevorkian's van and things like that?
I didn't. That was the weird part to me. Those parts that seemed like they'd be the creepiest were not that unnerving to me, and other parts I didn't expect to were kind of waves of strangeness. So,
see, to me, there were just things to me that just kind of unnerved me, like Gacy's paintings and
there's that. Like, that's just weird.
So to me, that bed, and when I look at it in this picture, I just think, ugh. Yeah, it definitely fits with the theme of the museum. That's for sure.
Dear Dave and Tim, my name is Amanda, and I wanted to write and tell you about my experiences with a possessed doll and seeing a ghost and being touched by one. I was between 9 and 11 when my mom had brought me the doll from a thrift store in Maryland. We had it for about a year when it would just go off by itself when no one was around it. So I decided to take out the batteries and throw it behind the china cabinet that we had. That night around 2 or 3 in the morning, I came out of my room from the basement to get some water to drink. It was pitch dark, and before I got the chance to turn on the light, I hear, "Mommy, play with me," reminding me that the doll had no batteries in it, and it was dark, and I was all by myself at the time. I said, "Fuck the water," and I took off back down the stairs. At the age of 9, 10, or 11, she said, "Fuck the water, Tim." She knew enough. She's more intelligent than most humans. And she took off down the stairs, locked the door behind me just in case it decided to move from behind the china cabinet. I stayed in my room until the sun came up. Now, as for the ghost, I was about 14 or 15 years old, and my sister and her 2 kids were staying over for about a week. And one night, something woke me up in the middle of the night, and I see a figure of a man's head and shoulders down to his mid-back. He was facing my sister and her 3-year-old daughter at the time. He was all white, not quite see-through, so I sat up and stared, not saying a word to him. Then he started to turn around. I got so scared that I could not scream at all. I had gotten a feeling that he had no face as he was turning away from my sister and her daughter as they slept. I froze, and I felt a pair of hands push me backwards. Then I covered my head and I started to say, go away, leave me alone," as I felt him get on top of my bed. Yeah. He left me alone for the rest of the night, but I still saw him from time to time. I have more ghost stories for another time. I love to listen to you guys. I also love Theater of the Mind. All right. Where shall we go next in the world of supernatural news, Tim?
We're headed to Mississippi, Dave, where a town commemorates an alleged alien abduction with a historical marker. In 1973, 2 men in Pascagoula claimed aliens pulled them aboard a UFO, examined them for about 30 minutes, and then returned them to Earth. a historical marker has been placed near the river where two men in southern Mississippi said they were abducted by aliens in 1973. News outlets report the city of Pascagoula dedicated the marker Saturday at Lighthouse Park. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker said they were on the shores of the Pascagoula River when what appeared to be aliens pulled them on board a UFO, examined them for about 30 minutes, and then returned them to Earth. Both reported the event to the sheriff's department and were checked out at a hospital after it happened October 11th, 1973. The story has become worldwide. Parker published a book about the experience in 2018. Hickson died in 2011. Both said many people doubted their story. A few witnesses have come forward to corroborate some details. So there you go.
All right, we've got a couple of stories from one author here, Tim, as I wrap up my section of the show with Parashare.
Okay.
My name is Brendan Howard. I'm a cousin with your daughter, Jen, Dave. She relayed to me that you were looking for paranormal experiences, and I took time to write down my experiences. 2 ghosts and a mega snake and a UFO experience in Tampa. Here they are. I hope you enjoy them. Mega snake, Tim.
I don't think you'd enjoy that, Dave. No.
Mega snake?
No. That's not enjoyable. No.
The first story, Tim. The Ghost Stallion of Roberts Road. The story takes place in the town of Odessa, Florida, outside the city of Tampa, back in the late 90s, early 2000s when my family lived in the area. The town was very rural with lakes and horses and pastures. The area is still a strong equestrian culture today, but has lost most of its rural feel. I was about 11 years old. Weekends were almost exclusively spent playing soccer or hanging out with my best friend at his house or mine. We were the exploring type, and neither were scared to be in the swamps or woods and explore for miles around our home. We'd often spend sleepovers going out on adventures at night, looking for spooky abandoned properties and barns in search of the unknown. On this particular sleepover, there was a heavy fog that descended in the evening. Thick fog is relatively rare in this part of Florida. I remember the air was cool and the fog was the thickest I'd ever seen. This only excited us as it was a rare experience and gave the night an ominous look and feel. We set out of my 200-yard dirt driveway and cut off early into a wooded shortcut to the main road. It led to an abandoned trailer in a field with a chain blocking off a short driveway. On the other side of the driveway was the main road, and on the other side of the road was a large fenced-in horse paddock. I recall us walking across the open fields towards the driveway, remarking how eerie everything looked when we heard a loud shriek of a horse neigh. This startled us and stopped us in our tracks. Looking at my best friend, a bit of shock and confused, I got the same look back, and we crept towards the noise quietly, in sync. We approached the drooping chain in the driveway and could see the field across the road. The fog was heavy in the paddock, and the horse field was lit on the left by a slight bright area and light on the barn that was kept on at nights. As we stood and stared over the edge of the chain, we began to see it. The fog in the middle of the field began to shift like it was being stirred from within. Another loud neigh rang out from the fog, and we saw a wispy form of a horse bucking in the fog. It was much larger than any horse I'd ever seen in the paddock, and it was extremely see-through. The outline of the head and mane were clear, the torso as well, lunging through the air, neighing and shifting the fog where it had traveled. The beast looked angry and powerful. It reminded me of a boat crashing up and down over waves in very rough water. At this point, I began to feel scared. Turning to my best friend, I exclaimed, "Run!" And we turned tail back through the field with an extraordinary spring in our step, rushing back through the shortcut in the dark and the fog and onto my driveway. We didn't stop until we were safely inside my house. We remarked, "What did we just see?" We didn't know, but we knew we saw the same thing, and it was no average horse. Upon telling my parents at the breakfast table the next morning, I described the occurrence as a run-in with the ghost stallion. We both relayed the way it bucked and how it was a wispy outline of a horse in an obviously see-through way. But this fell on deaf ears, and we chalked it up to young boys' imaginations. I spent a long time after thinking about this, and was that and what was unusual about that night and how I could repeat it. All I could come up with was that the heavy fog was so heavy that evening. Over the next couple of years, I did not let my family forget about the ghostly encounter, reminding them. I think it had to do with the fog, but they never gave the subject a serious evaluation. Then, one night, coming home late from soccer practice around 10:30 p.m. with my father and sister, I noticed the fog was unusually thick. So thick that it reminded me of the exact night my best friend and I had seen the ghost stallion for the first time. As we drove home, I warned my father and my sister to get ready. The fog was heavy, and we'd likely experienced the beast in the paddock I witnessed years before. We began to drive down the main road and came across the final turn before we'd see the huge paddock on our right-hand side. From the back seat, I urged my family to keep their eyes on the field. The field was covered in fog, and it was the barn light just as before. As we drove by the field, I noticed the two unusual horses standing in the middle of the fogged-up field, their dark outlines clear against the grayish fog. I was unsure what would happen next. That's when one of the horses standing in the field out of nowhere flipped over, straight-legged, and slammed on its back with all four legs in the air. I exclaimed, "Did you see that?" and was ready to hear confused and unfounded murmurs from my father and sister sitting up front. However, to my surprise, they were quiet for a moment and responded that they didn't see anything. I became angry and confused. I know that they saw this strange occurrence. I would not stop talking about it the closer to the field we drove. It was obvious. The horse just flipped onto its back. It was beyond strange. Not ghostly, but it was very weird. For a long time, I couldn't reconcile with my father and sister why they would lie to me and other family members about such a thing, especially since it was not the wispy stallion I had described for years. As I grew up and learned more about my father and sister and the type of people that they are, and as I got more into the paranormal, I learned some people cannot handle seeing things outside their firmly built walls of reality. When something strange happens to most people, they put it in the back of their head and don't think about it. It has led me to understand that not everyone is ready to see what lies beyond the normal. Our next story, Tim, the smoking lady. Are you ready for this?
Ready.
I grew up in a house that was very unique. It was a stilt home built in a cypress swamp, the mid-'60s, by a single man. He lived there with his wife for many years until she became sick from cancer from smoking cigarettes and passed away. Rumors always had it that it happened at the home. My father fell in love with the unique design of the home and purchased it in the mid-1980s. Now, my personal strangeness began when my brother and I moved out of sharing the single master bedroom. I was given the small room upstairs at the end of the hall. Our parents took the room, and my brother moved into an addition built on downstairs. My room ran the length of the hallway on the side of the house. I quickly began to decipher the creaking floorboards when somebody walked down the hallway. I always found it fun to scare my brother or sister when they came down the hallway to knock on my door to my mom on her way to the bedroom, just passing my door. I made a game of this and found it very funny. Only sometimes I found no one would be there to scare. I became so perplexed. I'd hear someone walking down the hall. I was certain, positively certain, was a sibling that would be there. I'd fling open the door only to be hit with a waft of cold air. The longer I lived in that room, the more often I heard the floorboards creak at later hours, wondering who was coming to my room at that hour. But no one would open my door. I began to ask my mom about this, and she relayed that she always had a feeling that there was a spirit in the house. And later, when I was older, would tell me about the builder of the house's wife. We began to live with the idea that the house was haunted, but we never felt there was any malevolent presence. My parents divorced, and a few years later, my mother remarried to another man, and he began to live with us. He told us one day, 9 months or so after moving in, that he was downstairs in the bathroom washing his face in the sink when he looked up and saw a woman's reflection in the mirror. This gave him quite a shock. He described her as a ghostly being, pale and see-through, in a white gown with white hair. She was smoking a cigarette and observing him. Then she faded away. This correlated with the stories my mother had heard when they first moved in. We moved out of the house a year or two later, unrelated to the haunting or any paranormal reasons, but after settling with the stories and experiences we'd had over the years, we felt the smoking woman was not a harmful entity, but more of a ghostly grandma looking after us. She saw our family grow up and wanted to make her presence known to the new father figure in the household. We have not been back to that house since we sold it and have not heard from the new homeowners, but they were young and starting to raise a family just like we did before. Perhaps she is still there looking out for the kids in the original home. Oh, God, Tim, we're at the part where it's now the mega snake of Weeki Wachi.
Uh-oh.
Sounds like a really bad Native American song I would have had to sing as a kid growing up at Trinity Lutheran. From the shores of Gitchagumi to the mega snake of Weeki Wachi. Florida is known for its warm climate and even subtropical climate. This means a wide variety of animals can live here, thriving as well, not just surviving. I was raised in the swamps and lakes of Tampa, Florida. I've been chased by water moccasins and even shot a boa constrictor in my backyard. We have a problem with them here in Florida, especially in the Everglades. But the story I'm about to relay is not of natural proportions. One of the hidden gems of Florida life is our pristine natural spring network. They're dotted across the state and consist of limestone rocks pouring crystal clear water that stays 72 degrees all year round, inhabited by gentle manatee and the occasional adolescent gator. One of the most famous spring destinations is Weeki Wachi in Spring Hill, Florida. Tim, add it to the list of places I'm never going.
Okay.
The spring itself releases 5 million gallons of pure spring water every day, and this creates a winding 7-mile crystal clear river. It's a great way to beat the heat in Florida summers, and on one such hot day, a friend and I decided to take our canoe up to the Weeki and enjoy a day of floating around the river. Wait a minute. So the spring water is a great way to relieve the summer heat, Tim.
Uh-huh.
That means you'd have to get into the water, where he said manatees and alligators live.
Well, manatees
water moccasins, Tim.
Yeah. Well, manatees are fine, but...
Yeah, man. Well, you don't know. There could be a rogue gang of mangry manatees, angry manatees, or managries, as I call them.
Yeah, yeah.
We were about 30 minutes down the river and just exited the state park area, which you're not allowed to leave your boat. We pulled up on a riverbank and began to swim around in a nice swimming hole along one of the bends. I'd just been swimming against the current, so I needed a little rest in the shallows. Earlier, I noticed a very large great egret, 3 feet tall at least, trailing our journey down the river, jumping from bank to bank, 1 or 2 banks behind us. I thought it was cool. We've got a bird buddy joining our carefree day. I noticed he then landed on the same bank we had our boat docked, maybe 25 yards upriver. He tucked into the woods, and I lost sight of him. Just as I was looking at where he tucked into the woods, I saw something big floating down the river bend. I thought, whoa, that's a big log floating down. But it looked too curvy for a log. And I had never seen a log float this relatively narrow river. I then thought, aha, it's a dolphin, because it was clearly too narrow to be a manatee, but immediately I realized that even though this river opens up to the ocean, no way a dolphin could be up this far. I then got a shot of panic. The log neared the bend 25 yards ahead away, and I saw movement on land. It looked like the dirt was moving, and as I stared, searching my mind for what this could be, I recognized it had to be a snake slithering out of the water. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have boa constrictor and python problems in Florida, but the girth of this animal's body sliding onto land is what scared me. I could tell the snake's thickness was larger than my thigh, which is no small thigh, 28 inches in diameter, Tim, in case you're curious.
Oh.
It hit me like a ton of bricks. It had to be a snake, and the biggest snake I'd ever seen and ever come into contact with. And it wasn't even halfway out of the water. I ran to the bank and hastily threw on shoes and clothes into the boat and pushed offshore with my paddle. My friend, who was still oblivious to what was going on, yelled to me, confused as to why we were leaving without him. I screamed to him to get in the damn boat. I'm not one to panic, but this snake was clearly hungry, and based on the girth of the snake, it could have been a monster. I pulled him into the canoe and out of the water and say we need to move on. My friend, curious, still thinks this is fun. A big snake, cool. The whole time I'm thinking to steer the boat around and calculate how big the snake is based on how thick it was. I never saw the head or the tail, just the body sliding on to land, getting thicker and thicker. He never saw the snake as he was swimming. He asked if we could go see the snake. The canoe we had was about 15 feet. I deemed that this thing was likely to be bigger than the boat, and the canoe floating 2 inches from the water, I forbade it. With my heart racing, we paddled as fast as we could for about 1.5 miles and tried our best to put it out of our mind. I now cannot go down the Weeki Wachee without keeping my eyes peeled for the mega snake. I also won't go down there without a large dive knife on my leg.
Just a dive knife? That's it?
Yeah. No, I'd need explosives. I would need explosives. And, there's no amount of money you could pay me, Tim. If you said to me, Dave, your future is set. Here's $32 million. You're going to go down the Weeki Wachee and get out on that same little stretch of land where the giant snake was seen.
Yep.
I just tell you to take that $32 and firmly stuff it up your ass, Tim. That's what I would tell you. The Falling Ball of Light, our final Parashare story this week. This story takes place in the year 2015. I was working as a security guard in a downtown Tampa area at a 32-story luxury apartment building. This building is located in the heart of downtown Tampa, not far from MacDill Air Force Base. I was doing my rounds in the evening around 12 a.m. I walked onto the patio about 10 floors up to take a break in the breeze and the aura of the city. The patio was also closed to residents at this hour, so I knew I would not be interrupted. I am an avid sky watcher, always keeping an eye out for the sky when I have the opportunity. I took a seat and began to watch the open skies to the north. I worked at 2 buildings in downtown Tampa, including the highest building in the city, where I often spent my breaks on that roof, watching the city from above and doing my best Batman impersonation. Occasionally, I saw a couple of meteors from that roof. In fact, this scared me because I saw 2 fall and burn up 100 yards away, and I got a lower altitude than the roof I was standing on. So I was on the 10th story patio watching the sky. I caught a flare of a light right above me. A star from the sky appeared to fall. Wow, I thought. There was a shooting star right above my head, and it was getting brighter and larger the closer it came. But I never saw a streak of light trailing it. Quickly, without taking my eyes off the point, I pulled out my phone and struggled to tear my eyes away from the object to set up the camera. I thought, this is so exciting. I might be able to get a meteor on camera. I did pull up my camera app, and it was still falling. I tried to record video, but the light pollution from the downtown area made it impossible to pick up on the phone's camera. My eyes dart from the camera to the object and back. It's still falling. I actually began to worry that this falling star is going to hit me. About 100 feet above me, the object begins to dim finally, and I think it's going to burn up, only it stops. It stopped falling in midair and begins to hover. Or it begins to hover, not begins to hover, Tim. That wouldn't be proper English.
Ah, yes.
It stops and begins to hover. Its light has stabilized into a glow. A small part of flat light darts from the camera to the object, the small light begins to float eastbound like a bubble would float in the air, lazily, but as if under control. Then it began to fade in color, slowly moving ever eastward, eventually fading more and more, almost phasing out until it disappeared from sight. I was astonished and have never been able to explain what I saw that night. Great stories, man. Thank you very much for sharing those with us, Brendan. We appreciate it. All right, our final news story, Tim. Where are we off to next?
We're headed to Myerstown, Dave, where a man has planted an explosive device to warn about alien annihilation. Of all the ways you could warn somebody that aliens are going to annihilate us, I don't think you do it by annihilating something else. Call me wrong. I don't know.
You're wrong. Wait, what am I calling you wrong about?
I'll explain.
Okay.
We go to Lebanon County, where state police have released more information regarding the suspect who planted a suspicious package. That's the name of my new rock band, by the way. Suspicious Package. At a Lebanon County hotel on Sunday morning. Troopers were called to the Bainey House in Myerstown Borough for a report of an active bomb threat in the hotel's rear parking lot. Police safely took the suspect into custody, and members of the Pennsylvania State Police Hazardous Device and Explosive Sections, the HDES is what the kids are calling it, Dave, used safe methods to disable the device inside of it. The suspect, 28-year-old David Oxenrider, was charged with manufacturing a weapon of mass destruction, causing or risking a catastrophe, and recklessly endangering another person. Oxenreider had called the hotel manager earlier in the morning to alert him of the explosive device he placed and told him to remove it from the building, according to authorities. The suspect told the troopers he placed 2 metal butane tanks, which were taped together in a green bag. He then wrapped a cloth with metal staples around the butane tanks. Police say Oxenreider told officers the device had to be manually detonated and that he did not want to hurt anyone. He just wanted to get the attention of police to tell them something bigger. According to the affidavit, Oxenreider said he encountered a UFO in 2014 and was told by aliens that humans needed to start being good to each other or else the Earth would be destroyed with a nuclear laser beam. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
I didn't know those things existed.
I didn't know either, Dave. I had no idea. Authorities say that Oxenreider told troopers he had been trying to warn people about the aliens, but no one would listen, and people thought he was crazy. Well, that's just downright crazy thinking that. Crazy.
Crazy.
I mean, he seems perfectly logical to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oxenreider's home was searched, and similar materials to that used to make the explosive device were found in his room, according to the affidavit. That poor man, all he was trying to do was get a hold of people. Just let him know. Just let him know, Dave. Let him know. Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
Hey, as we wrap up, just to make a mention, a fellow paranormal enthusiast and researcher, Butch Witkowski, who's been a guest on our show a few times, he's a researcher and investigator from Phantoms and Monsters 40 and Research, Pennsylvania Lichen Investigations and the like, has suffered a heart attack. Our thoughts and prayers are out with Butch and his family for a quick and speedy recovery. That is all I know at this point. So I just wanted to put that out there to the listeners. So keep Butch Witkowski in your prayers and thoughts for full and complete and speedy recovery. That's it for this week, kids. We're done for Supernatural News Pair Share. We'll be back tomorrow. We've got an interesting show lined up, Tim. I don't know if I can give his name yet because he's being very protective of it. We might be able to mention it on tomorrow's show if I can get him to open up. But an insider, a gentleman with a unique insight on a very chilling aspect of soda pop. What the hell does that have to do with us, Dave? Well, it's conspiracy, and it's a really weird piece, but he's also going to talk about weather manipulation and something that's going on right now, something he's calling for greater acknowledgement of. And if there isn't, there will be serious repercussions. That's tomorrow on the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave, that's Tim. This is Beyond the Darkness.